today I'm going to be looking at the trailer for the Charlie's Angels film and looking at it through an inclusivity and representation lens. We're going to unpack it and see, did they do enough? Do we like these changes? Do there need to be more? All the things. So don't go anywhere. Hey love, I'm Gia Goodrich, the beauty photographer, and today I am super excited because we are digging in and reviewing the new Charlie's Angels movie. I just saw the trailer and I am so excited to dig into this because obviously they've made quite a few changes when it comes to inclusivity and representation. If you don't know me, I'm a beauty photographer and director that is all about changing our beauty standards by strategically pushing to create more representation for all of these fabulous identities that have been excluded, that are beautiful. First, a disclaimer. I am a gay, mixed-race, cis female. So as much as I'm looking at it through a lens of inclusivity that include multiple identity categories, there's always going to be limitations to what I can see. And all I can do as an individual is try to continue to grow and expand and all the things. So I'm going to do my best today because my whole job and passion and the reason I create images in the world is to reimagine how we think about the media landscape and change it for the better. So everyone can look at it, find someone who looks like them, see stories that reflect their stories, and feel validated, beautiful, celebrated in who they are. One last thing, if you're new around here, I make videos each week that are about beauty, confidence, empowerment, and inclusion. So if that sounds like it's your jam, click the subscribe button below and be sure to ding the notification bell so it doesn't get lost in the YouTube clutter confusion. All right, let's dig in. Most of the movies that we've grown up seeing that we love, if you look at it from a diversity, inclusion, representation lens, are just like horrible. There is this amazing channel on YouTube, and I don't know why he stopped doing this, but we need to fully encourage them to do more. Dylan Marin, and if we go through, Dylan went through all of these films and composited the lines of the people of color. And so we have all of these, yeah, it's pretty, okay. So for example, Mrs. Doubtfire, which if you're a kid like me who grew up in the 90s.
Sick. Mom!
Those were the only people of color in the entire Mrs. Doubtfire film. See, that makes me so sad. I mean, I love that film. Okay, here we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows 2.
Where is it?
Yes, but Luna, it's lost. For centuries now. There isn't a person alive today who's seen it. It's a sort of crown, you know, like a tiara.
Tell Professor McGonagall Remus and I will handle this side of the castle.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dean, on second thoughts, tell Professor McGonagall we might need one or two more ones this side. Who said that?
So that's like 3 lines from one character and 1 line. So 3 characters in that whole movie that are people of color. Gosh, it's like so disheartening when you think about it. Okay, and then really to drive this home and probably break your heart a little bit, I think most people love the film E.T. and probably haven't thought about how many people of color in the film. So this is a line from every single person who had a speaking role in E.T.
Hey, who are you? Open the door, son.
That's it. So just to give you some context about how really dismal and disappointing the film industry has been in terms of representation. I'm also speaking from personal experience because actually, and I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but I'm a photographer now and I absolutely love creating imagery. But when I was young, I was an on-camera actor and I actually graduated from high school, went straight down to LA, had an agent and a manager, went to a lot of castings, and a lot of times you don't get direct feedback to you, you get it to your agent. And a couple times I did get it directly to me, but definitely my agent received this feedback, which was, she's great, we love her, but we don't know who we would get to play her parents. i.e., I'm mixed, it's obvious that I'm mixed. So at that time, 2000, 2005, it was considered so disruptive to have 2 parents that didn't match each other, or a child and a parent that didn't visibly look like each other in terms of their skin tone, that it was thought to do harm to how the film would perform. or the commercial perform. So they wouldn't cast me because of that. And the few things that I was cast for, I was cast as like the best friend, where you never have to explain where they come from, or a commercial where you never have to see parents or anything, because at the time everyone had to match. So this is a systemic issue within the film industry, and what is so great is to see how a lot of that has changed in the last few years. So in order to take a look at how this remake exists in 2019, we have to dig a little bit into the past. So for those of you like me that didn't quite hit the original Charlie's Angels, let's just look really quickly at the series trailer just to give you a little bit of a refresher.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little girls.
Okay, first of all, adult women called 3 little girls right off the bat, okay? You don't have to be 100% up on your gender studies to know that referring to women as little girls is not cool. Okay, let's keep going.
Who went to the police academy.
Okay. Love it. Glorious hair, right? Totally impractical, but that doesn't matter.
And they were each assigned very hazardous duties. But I took them away from all that, and now they work for me.
Okay, and then Charlie, obviously being a white dude bro, took them away from all of that, and now they work for me. Here's this guy swooping in to save the day. It totally fits within this model of men being in power, and that power trickling down at their leisure to women.
My name is Charlie.
All the great 70s graphics. Lots of music. Lots of music. Always in cute outfits. Reference from the original Charlie's Angels, which, you know, it's easy to critique it from our contemporary lens, right? It's easy to say, wow, that was super sexist. Wow, that's super messed up. But we have to also see it in the time frame that it was existing, right? So it's hard to try to approach it with grace, because you see it now and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so sexist, and that's really frustrating. However, at that time, I don't really think there were that many shows where women were cast as the leads, okay? So it was a show of progression. Okay, so now we look at the remake, and there were 3 in this trilogy. This is the one that happened in 2000, which I loved. This was the one that hit me in my generation, that had Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. So this is 2000, this is 19 years ago at this point.
Another movie from an old TV show.
LL Cool J, yay! Okay, so all right, we have a person of color, which there were 0 in the original, although he is a villain, for Yush, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay, and then we have some badassery, some explosions.
Right.
Of course, she's wearing
They're
nothing.
the ones to call.
Okay, so we have Lucy Liu, who is so amazing. Now, she was one of those people who's an inspiration to me, because she was that woman of color in a space where we were seeing very little. Now, I know there are a lot of people that like to create hierarchies in terms of people of color. And, you know, and some of that is definitely valid, because if we look at who's incarcerated, who's beaten to death and things like that, there is a difference between what your ethnic makeup is. However, when we look at representation in film, Asian people have been really underrepresented. And what was like a great example is Crazy Rich Asians. That was the first Hollywood-made film with a predominantly Asian cast since the Joy Luck Club. Now, I remember the Joy Luck Club as a kid. So all of this space, all this progress was happening, and all of this progress was happening all this time. But still, if you look at representation, that was like almost a 30-year gap between these films. So Lucy Liu, even though she is operating as like the singular person of color in this, she is just doing such a brilliant job, and I just love her for that.
To call.
Who are you people?
And LL Cool J isn't really the person of color, it's actually a white person in blackface. But let's not hold it against them, because it's Drew Barrymore. And I love kicking ass, even though they are, you know, like that's something, that little that little scene where they're dressing up in Yello Face would not really fly today because that is playing on stereotypes and tropes that actually have cultural significance and yeah, I just, you know, this was 19 years ago.
Crime fighting force ever assembled. They've got techniques.
Little dominatrix. Really, you can tell what they're leaning on a lot is the sexual appeals. And okay, we can keep going because we know most everybody's white in this movie. So that was the most recent update were those 3 films. And, you know, I love them. They were great films. They were fun, but obviously seeing it in the context today, there was a lot left to be desired. So there's a great change and refresh that I think has happened to really like invigorate the franchise and really make it contemporary, which is super important. Let's just put a piece of paper up. Okay, so let's do a little lesson. So when I'm looking at this film, I'm looking for inclusion and representation across a few different axes. And it's important to understand how different identities operate. First identity we have to really understand is the cis, white, hetero, male, I'm gonna put with money, right? So this is what I like to call the dude bro. Now, what's important to understand is the dude bro really operates in our culture as the non-identity, that everything else has to be defined against because we don't have to talk about identity when we're talking about them. Well, obviously I don't subscribe to that. So we're just gonna put the dude bro over here, okay? Because the dude bro is the one that pretty much all of cinematic history has been showing their story, showing their struggles, their highlights, how awesome they are, blah, 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 blah. Now, the one thing that's important to say is that dude bros aren't inherently negative. I know a lot of guys who are amazing and sweet and gentle and talented and wonderful and great, great allies. However, dude bros in this sense is functioning as an identity category term that basically is every story ever told about them. Like you can think of Leonardo DiCaprio, right? I love Leo and I used to crush on Leo super hard and Leo is amazing, right? But if you look at how many films he's been in about stories that him and people like him go through, it's like pretty much 99.999% of all cinema, okay? So we have the dude bro. But then we have these other identity categories that we want to make sure are represented. So we have the LGBT, whoa, I can't write. What is that? Let's just go 2SQ+. Okay, I wrote this out of order, but here we go. So we have lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, trans, questioning, plus, because there's also intersex, there's pansexual, there's so many in there. This is representing our queer community. So then we also want to talk about P.O.C, which is people of color, which includes Asian, Latinx, Black, Indigenous, mixed. There are also other identities in here. Ethnicity is a societal construction. So all of these are flux. There are mixes between all of these, but these are main categories that we want to be represented. Then we have gender, sexuality, body shape, and ability. So when we're talking about ability, we're talking about people who are potentially in wheelchairs, some badass person who has cerebral palsy, who is like whip smart, cracking jokes, but doesn't have the same motor coordination as one might expect for somebody who isn't struggling with that. And then we have body shape, which is a big one when we come to big box office films like this. Are we showing a diversity in body size, in body shape? Are we really celebrating curves, or are we really thinking about just one type of body? Then when we come to gender, we're thinking about females, we're thinking about cis females, and then also non-binary or agendered people. And then sexuality, are we looking at, and this goes back to LGBTQ, are we seeing love stories? Are we seeing sexual tension with people who aren't hetero? Okay, so looking to this lens, let's dig in. Okay, so this is the second time I'm seeing this, and I'm just so excited about it. Check out the Charlie's Angels trailer right now.
Don't call me angel.
I think women can do anything.
Just because they can doesn't mean they should.
Okay, so what I love about this is they're starting with what we think about as being the Charlie's Angels moment, which is like seduction, using your feminine wiles, all of that, and move like straight into the badassery ass kicking, which is amazing. Because if you look at older versions of Charlie's Angels, they really play that up and really make sure that it's like all about the feminine royals and all of that stuff. And I think what Elizabeth Banks, which is how badass, female director who is amazing, how great is it that she's like creating the hook and then like taking you right away from it.
Angels.
Patrick Stewart is such an amazing ally.
You have a new client?
Who is she? Okay, so then we see Kristen Stewart with her gay as fuck haircut. The fact that she is queer, out, and amazing, and being represented here, that it is in a space that's all about box office power with her like super gay haircut and like androgynous swagger just makes me so happy. And already in the first like 36 seconds, we've had how many? 3 characters of color? Already, we have 2 out of the 3 main characters being mixed race and being women of color. Who is she?
I can't sleep at night.
Yes.
I'm the lead programmer on a product that can revolutionize the power industry.
Yes, so we have Ella Balinska, who is mixed Polish and Jamaican. So she's representing those amazing people who come from Africa and the African diaspora who've ended up in the West Indies. So what's great about Ella is that she's really representing 2 ethnic groups that are oftentimes the recipients of racism. And she's gorgeous and amazing and badass. It's not like we need to reduce her down to her ethnicity, but we're talking about inclusion right now, okay?
But there is a possibility it can be weaponized.
Yes, okay, hold on. Yes, and now we have Naomi Scott, who just got done playing Princess Jasmine and is so gorgeous and powerful and badass. And she is also mixed. Her mom, who's from Uganda, but is of Gujarati Indian descent, and her dad, who's English. So she also represents this amazing mix of cultures, and yeah, love her for that.
Can be weaponized.
Okay, and then we have Jaimin Hunsu, who's a Beninese American, amazing actor, gorgeous, powerful, all the things. So immediately we already have these people of color, which just like warms my heart, because if we compare it with Mrs. Doubtfire and we only have 2 twins that are of Asian descent in the whole movie, it's feeling pretty good.
Emma, we need to go.
No!
You're not a waitress? And no. It looks like he's a protagonist, which is amazing because people of color are usually portrayed as the antagonists, the villains, the dark and exotic, alluring, but ultimately disaster-creating people. Now, I'm personally hoping that there's not some twist in the end where he ends up being a villain, because let's be real, that happens in the franchise. But it's just so amazing to have actors that are of color that are existing outside of, you know, the narrow stereotypes that we've been in for like a hot minute. Oh. Guns, cars,
who are you?
And Bosley is Elizabeth Banks. Okay, so Bosley is a woman, which already people are having like a lot of issues with. I think because the franchise is just really so ingrained in our American culture. People have loved it for generations and generations and generations. And really, there's no reason why Bosley has to be a guy. Right? What I've read about the film is there are 3 different Bosleys, and I think 2 are women and 1 is maybe a man. But the fact that the main Bosley that we see straight out of the gate is a woman who also is the director of the film is pretty badass and just shaking it up. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about diversity and inclusion, a lot of times because of the nature of who is receiving the most harm and the most impact from exclusion, we don't focus on just the female category in and of itself. This is kind of where we get into dangerous waters, and every time that we talk about diversity and inclusion and representation, it's tough because it's really easy to offend, and it's also really easy to get things wrong. So I just want to come out and say, I might be wrong. There are things that I might say that you don't like. There are things that I might say that upset you. There are ways in which I might not be as informed as I should be. I try, I do my best, but that's the reality. So leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. But here's the thing, kind vibes only. There is a way to have conversations and to have dialogue without being cruel. And there are a lot of ways in which The internet is fabulous and creates a meaningful place for discourse, but that degree of abstraction in terms of how we communicate with each other has also created a lot of room for trolling and just attacking, and this whole idea of call-out culture, where you are putting someone on blast and ridiculing them. I am 100% not about that. So if you do leave a comment and it's unkind and it's disparaging and it's invalidating and it's not giving someone grace, then you'll be blocked and deleted. However, I firmly believe that you can say things that are challenging in a kind way. And I am all here for that, living for that, wanting more of that. Because even myself, I am hoping and growing and trying in every way I can to be more inclusive and representation. Like, I've committed my life to that. And I still am probably gonna fuck up. You know what I mean? So make sure that you're calling in, that instead of blasting someone, that you're, giving them grace and saying, hey, you probably didn't mean to have this impact, and it's the difference between intent and impact, right? To say like, hey, your intent was probably great with this, but the impact that these words have are this. And, I just want to bring it to your attention. So in the future, you can work through it. In the future, you can be more mindful. That is a beautiful way to call someone in. I've been called in personally by that and have grown as a result of that. Okay, so getting back to what I was going to say is that when it comes to diversity, representation, and inclusion, we're really focusing on, I think as a culture, the most marginalized of identities, right? So if you take, for example, a white cis female, they're not being killed and jailed just for their identity and experiencing as many hate crimes because of their identity as, let's say, trans women of color, okay? But that is not to say that we shouldn't honor beautiful changes that are happening. And so the fact that Elizabeth Banks, as a white cis woman, is inhabiting this role of Bosley, that is amazing and deserves clap emojis, you know what I'm saying? Because we aren't putting as much focus into that, but that's still a big thing. And really, when you look back 10, 20 years, like, that's some huge progress that should definitely be celebrated. Okay, let's keep going.
Welcome to the Townsend Agency. We exist because
love that butch haircut. Androgynous and loving it.
Lady Spies. Jane's former MI6. Oh God.
What did you do to Sven? I compressed his carotid and deoxygenated his brainstem.
Well, that sounds painful. Don't worry, he's gonna wake up.
Unless he doesn't.
Sabina runs the ground game. See, I know stuff.
Love
Let's get
it.
the weapon before it becomes every bad guy's favorite new toy.
And she's just so gay in this. I love it. And it looks like also that here.
Toys?
Makes me so happy. So much more badass.
Ah, we're still in the first closet.
There's another closet.
Oh my God. Oh, mints.
And what I love is that they're fun, they're powerful, they're sexy, they're whip smart. It's just like all of the complexity that is. There's not like stripping away and showing this like two-dimensional version. So I love that you're seeing all the complexities.
Let's just stop the touching. Some of these blows up.
I love phosphorus.
It's my favorite chemical.
Really?
Jane, are you flirting with a handsome nerd?
Of course not.
How'd that feel? Because it looked like it
the
felt
ass kicking.
really good. That felt nice.
Here we go.
We in it together, but don't call me Angel.
Good morning, angels.
Good morning, Charlie. So I love so much about this, right? When we're talking about the new Charlie's Angels film, what are they hitting and what are they missing? Well, first, they have LGBTQAI plus representation with Kristen Stewart, who's self-identified as super gay and looks in the film to be hella gay. It just warms my lesbian heart. We also have 2 out of the 3 main actors being women of color and representing different backgrounds within that, which is amazing. Bosley is being represented by a woman, which is great female representation in a space that previously wasn't inhabited. And then when we look at some of these secondary characters, we're seeing a lot more faces of color than we did in the past. So let's look at what we're not saying that we would love to see either in this film, because I'm just going off the trailer, so there might be in this film, but if not, what we would love to see in second and third films. I'm seeing a lot of cisgendered people, as far as I can tell, and it would be great to have some representation of someone in the trans community and someone in the gender non-conforming space. So again, it's hard to know how people identify, but what I'm really referring to are people who are out there representing these people in cinema. So that's something I would love to see. I would also love to see a lot more diversity in terms of body shape. I mean, if we look at all these actors right now who are amazing, they are all in that Hollywood 0 to 4 size range. And that beauty standard is pretty harmful. Not that their bodies are causing harm by any means, but the idea that those are the majority of the bodies that we see to the exclusion of all the other amazing range and curves, like that is inherently harmful and problematic. Now, I see a lot more of it in the still image industry. I see a lot more of it in TV. I see a lot more of it in beauty campaigns. It's for some reason having a harder time catching into big Hollywood films. And that's something that would be really wonderful to see. Also, when it comes to ethnicities, it would be wonderful to make sure that there are some Latinx people who are representing. And it would also be wonderful to see some indigenous people, really, because indigenous people have historically been represented horrifically in American cinema. And that's just talking about in the United States. If you're talking about indigenous people in Australia, in Central and South America, I mean, it's not good, okay? So it would be great to see somebody really representing that strong, empowered indigenous experience in this film or in future films. You know, let's talk about ability. Like, there is no reason that I think you don't see Charlie, right? So Charlie might not be a good example, but there's no reason that one of the Bosleys can't be in a wheelchair. There's no reason that one of the characters they interact with isn't a spy with cerebral palsy that everybody overlooks, but is secretly like taking in information and is just like cutthroat, literally, because it's Charlie's Angels. I mean, that would be, how badass would that be, right? So I think also from an ability lens, it would be great to see more diversity and more representation. The other thing I really wish I would have seen more of is rich pigment. Now, selfishly, as a mixed race kid, is it amazing seeing mixed race individuals in film? Yes, because when I was growing up, I just didn't have that. That said, a lot of times those individuals are being chosen over people with richer pigment because we still have culturally a problem of loving deep skin tones, right? Jaimin Hansu is amazing to have in the film, but you know, it would be great to have more individuals and to have someone who is representing beauty, to have some rich melanation happening. And that's something that we're not seeing as much of that we really need to see. Also, just going by the trailer, I can't tell for sure, but it would sure be amazing if Kristen Stewart's character had some LGBTQ sexual tension kind of moments in there, because it looks like they're representing some of the hetero stuff happening, but wow, would that be amazing. All right, so final thoughts. I think this Charlie's Angels reboot is amazing. I am so excited by the amount of representation. I am so pumped for just the empowered tone of it. I love seeing all the faces of color, and I love that it seems like it's not even a big deal in the film, whereas in past films it was very like racially charged in a way that we had to acknowledge the race instead of just having it be what it is. Yeah, I'm just really excited about this film. I'm really excited about that jump. I think they did a really good job. That said, are there things that can be improved on? Hell yes. But I'm so excited for this stuff. And what I really hope is that this makes so big of a box office impact that people can't ignore it, and that producers are propelled and feel that pressure to move forward in this path of celebrating every identity. So that's my wrap up for the new Charlie's Angels movie. Leave a comment below because I would love to know your thoughts. Is there something I missed, something you wish was there? Do you feel like your identity is being represented? Let's have a conversation down below. Remember, kind vibes only. And lastly, just in case no one has told you this so far, you are perfect. Your identity, your complex mix of experiences, You are absolutely wonderful, and I'm so glad that you exist in the world. And I hope that you feel empowered and beautiful and confident to make your voice heard and to take up as much space as you need to in the world to manifest everything you have inside you. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Booster seat activated. Oh my gosh, I'm out of breath. Get it together, Goodrich. Okay.